Have you ever gotten to your hunting spot and you feel like you just can't hit a thing? You're missing everything, you feel like you're on them, but you just can't hit them. You're in a slump. You know, here we are in Uruguay. It's July, the South American winter, and I was feeling pretty rusty the first day. So there's tons and tons of excuses, which is always good to have in your back pocket. But the fact remains, you're missing. How do you fix it? Getting out of a slump is probably one of the hardest fixes you can make in shooting, but let's take a systematic approach and figure out how we can get out of it. First thing is, check out everything physical, everything that you can control. When it's cold out, say you're duck hunting and you have a lot of layers on, that can really dramatically affect your gun fit. The second thing is, are you getting hung up on your clothes? When you go to mount your gun, are you getting hung up on anything, a shell pocket or anything like that? I like a nice smooth front to shoot with so you can always bring it up real easily. The other thing is, do you have any sort of strap underneath? That can really throw off the way you mount your gun. Definitely something you want to consider. Maybe drop it lower or move it off to one side so you can shoot straight. So just make sure that you're set up with all of your gear that's on to shoot well. The next thing to consider is the blind itself. Is there anything you can eliminate physically there? Maybe you can trim them down a little bit so at least when you stand up, you're up above them and they're not going to affect your swing at all. This can be a really strong subconscious distraction for shooters. The next thing to consider is your gun, your loads, and your swing mechanics. Is something off there? Are the shots a little bit closer than you expected? Well, they were for me, so I switched from a modified choke to a more open choke, an improved cylinder, and that seemed to help a lot. When you enter into a slump, the first thing to do is try to put out a little more lead out there and swing really hard through the target. Okay, and now the big one. It's the mental aspect. When you get into a slump like I did, the first thing you tend to do is you start to overthink what you're doing. You start to measure out your leads. You start to point with your gun. You start to aim. Wrong thing to do when you're shotgunning. I've often said, think long, think wrong in shotgunning. Use your instinct, trust it, and you'll break out of that slump in no time. I'm Nick Seifert in Uruguay saying, dispare directo, shoot straight.